what are we looking for when we're trying to hunt red emperor? Well, there's three main things that I look for. The first one being these small little baits, which so often gets referred to as like a glass fish. And generally, if you found a bommy that's covered in them like this one, there's a good chance there'll be a red or a mangrove jack nearby. And some other things that I look for are small isolated rocks that have really good structure, big caves, but also have good rises on them. And the third thing is just lots of sand in between that particular rock and the next one to it. You want these to be as isolated as possible, and that way it brings all the fish into the one little spot. And this is a perfect example of one of our bommies in around 15 meters of water. So although it is very variable at times, it's not always the same bommies that I think are going to hold reds that do, but generally you can get a good idea if you do it enough times and you just look for those different little bait fish and structures. So this particular bommy has a big cut underneath it. We've shot big jacks and big reds off it in previous trips, and of course there's two big reds sitting on it today. And at first I just wanted to check it out, and on my next dive down I decided that that second one in the background was definitely that little bit bigger, and so I decided to take that one for the day, and that came in around 67 centimeters, that fish. So pretty decent sized fish for 15 meters of water. And you can kind of see the rock that I'm talking about. It comes right up off the bottom and it's surrounded by sand, and that kind of just brings those reds in, and it's got heaps of bait fish as well. With mangrove jack, I can almost tell every time whether or not there's going to be a jack on that particular rock. Like this one with that big cut through the middle, it's a good indicator that it's probably home to one of these bigger jacks, and it's got heaps of bait fish as well. So this jack actually came in at around, I think, 67 centimeters as well, which is a really good fish and one of the bigger ones that we've shot on this particular rock. And just take note of what the rock kind of looks like. It's very small and isolated, but it holds heaps and heaps of those baits, and consequently it brings in those bigger fish like mangrove jack and red emperor. On this rock in particular though, I've never seen a red. It's a little bit too shallow and just isn't quite right for them, but each fish seems to have their own kind of idea for what they want. And so another thing that we've been doing recently is actually punching into deeper water, and that's where we've been getting the bigger reds, like the ones you might have seen at the start of this video. So around that 70 to 80 centimeter mark, we're diving anywhere from 20 to 26 meters of water. And Ivan's gone down on this rock and he's seen a pretty decent red. This one's probably around 70 centimeters, and he didn't want to take a shot just to spook the fish, but on my next dive down I saw big bar cheeks and lots of life. You'll kind of see just looking at this rock exactly what I'm talking about, and it's essentially just covered in those little glass fish, and so you've got those bigger predators sitting on there as well. So the deeper you dive, the fishier it gets, generally. And this bommy is probably one of my favorite clips I've ever actually taken. It's on a rock in around 23 to 24 meters of water, and you can kind of see that there's Tuskies, there's Chinaman, there's Red Emperor, there's even a big bar cheek sitting right in front of me, and this kind of rock ticks all the boxes. It's got sea snakes even on it as well, a lot of those glassy little bait fish, and you can kind of see it doesn't really come up too much, but it's got rocks that have really good cracks in between them. And this is another rock in about 22 meters just next to that one, and it had a really big red on it, but Ricky did unfortunately miss that one. He hadn't dived that deep previously, so he didn't want to, push himself, and he took a bit of a long shot. This is another bommy in some shallower water. I think this one's about 17 meters and a pretty decent red on there. Nothing too special for that one, maybe around that 60 to 62 centimeters mark. And yeah, we're just cruising along, checking lots of different rocks. And it's not as easy as just jumping on one rock and boom, you have your reds. It's a lot of looking around, diving probably 10 to 20 rocks that don't have any of those fish before you find one that really lightens up and has all of those fish on it. So this rock again is actually even deeper, around that 25 to 26 meters on the bottom, and I normally just get to around 23 and hover a bit before actually taking a shot. And if you actually pause that clip and look back at the kind of fish species that are on that rock, you've got nearly everything from tuskfish, red emperor, Chinaman, little cods, big cods, and pretty much the whole lot. And that's exactly what you're looking for. As long as those different species are there, big Chinaman can sometimes bring in big reds as well. And I always like to look for sea snakes. If you see sea snakes that are just popping right up from the bottom and swimming up to you, there's a good chance that rock at the bottom there is probably holding really good fish life. And yeah, sea snakes generally like to sit on quite healthy rocks. And so I hope this has kind of given you a little bit of indicator of what to look for. It's a very broad little skim over the top of what you're actually needing to look for, but there's a lot to it and a lot of practice that you just need to continue to do, and eventually you find those spots that do hold reds. At some point in the future, I do plan on doing a more in-depth video of how we do it from start to end. And hopefully I can get you guys onto a few of your own reds on your own trips. And I think this same rule can be applied anywhere along the Great Barrier Reef as long as you find the right spot.